Someone was outside of the cabin. Hey, I'm Sapphire. Want to hear something scary? Before we head into our next chapter, make sure you subscribe to Snarled and turn on the bell for notifications. And stick around after this episode for some exciting announcements. Our next story is a true close encounter of a strange kind from McCall in Montana, a friend of Megan's. It was the winter of 2013. McCall had just finished his first year of wildland firefighting, and to celebrate, he and his friend Kobe went to his cabin, far off in the woods and mountains of Montana. McCall also bought himself a .44 Magnum revolver, which he brought along with him. McCall and Colby spent the day gathering wood, and once it got dark out, they burned the wood in the fire pit in front of the cabin. They were playing music through a Bluetooth speaker, sipping beers, and hanging out. About 5 minutes had passed when McCall heard a sound coming from behind the cabin. They both paused. It was probably just the wind or something. McCall threw another log onto the fire, and they continued talking. A few minutes later, they heard it again. Did you hear that? Yeah, it's probably just some cattle or something. Cattle don't make noise like that. They tried to think of what could possibly be the source of this strange, almost rhythmic sound. Maybe it was the trees freezing? But it wasn't cold enough for that. The nearest neighbor wasn't for a few miles. Was someone messing with them? Hey! Who's there? McCall tried to sound as intimidating as possible, despite being scared shitless. If you don't stop, I'm gonna shoot! They waited. McCall shot his gun at a nearby tree as a warning. When the ringing in their ears began to fade, they heard a low, deep, guttural growl. McCall knows what all the animals in Montana sound like. Cougars, moose, black bears, badgers, coyotes, wolves. But this? He had never heard a growl like this before, and it sounded like a warning. McCall and Colby ran inside the cabin, locked the doors, and closed the blinds. The following morning, they walked outside to where the sounds came from to see if they could find any tracks, something to give them an idea of what was there. But the fresh fallen layer of snow had covered any evidence. The following summer, McCall and Kobe returned to the cabin. McCall's uncle had recently passed away, and a mountain retreat was just what he needed. At this point, they had completely forgotten about the strange sounds last winter. They arrived at the cabin early in the morning and spent the day gathering firewood. Once it got dark, they decided to stop and go inside for a break. McCall made a large pot of coffee to stay awake, as they planned on staying up later to make a bonfire. The living room of the cabin had a couch that faced the front door. Next to the door was a large window with the curtains pulled back. It was completely pitch black outside. McCall and Colby were relaxing on the couch, sipping their mugs, when suddenly, a flash of light appeared outside. Moments later, another flash, and another. With every flash, McCall heard what sounded like the shutter of a camera, like someone was taking photos. McCall turned to Kobe. Do you see that? The look on his face was enough of an answer. The flashing lights continued for 10 more minutes, and then silence. They heard footsteps, soft, slow, dragging along the ground. Someone was outside of the cabin. They were miles away from anyone else. Somebody had traveled a very long way to get to them. McCall and Colby grabbed their rifles and followed the sound as it made its way to the front door. It stopped. Despite having just drank 2 cups of coffee, McCall began to feel tired, heavy. It was like someone had just switched his brain to slow motion. He could faintly hear Colby say, I think they're putting something in the air. McCall? McCall, wake up. It was morning. McCall was on the floor next to his bed. How did I get here? I don't know, but I woke up in the middle of the hallway. Do you remember what happened last night? I remember the footsteps at the door, and then I think we both passed out. But check this out. They walked downstairs to the living room. Colby pointed towards the front door. Both their rifles leaned neatly against the door, right where they aimed them last night. Did you put those there? No. Did somebody enter their house? And were they still there? When they left later that day, there was a black Dodge Ram with tinted windows parked on the mountain, about a mile away from McCall's cabin. It probably wouldn't have caught McCall's eye if he hadn't known so much about the men in black. Since about half a century ago, people who had witnessed UFOs or other unexplained phenomena also claimed to be visited by mysterious men in black suits and ties. Usually these men threatened the witness to never speak of what they saw. These are the Men in Black, an organization whose job is to keep us from knowing what's really out there. Did McCall and Colby unknowingly witness something they weren't supposed to? And did the Men in Black pay a visit to make sure they wouldn't tell anyone? Unfortunately, there's no way to find out for sure. But if this video suddenly disappears with no explanation, I'll let you decide why. Want to wear something scary? Head over to store.snarled.com to get a Snarled or Something Scary hoodie for a limited time. They're only available until March 19th, so get them before they're gone. Snarled and our gaming channel Slaytrix are now partnered with Discord. We're hosting a game night today, March 13th at 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll be using Discord's voice channel to talk to you, and you can talk directly to us. The link to join the Discord is in the description down below. Like this video if it gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe to Snarled and our sister channels HissyFit and Slaytrix. If you or anyone you know have any unique paranormal experiences, send me an email at somethingscary@snarled.com and I might animate your story. Even if it doesn't fit in with the current theme, it might fit one in the future. And if your story doesn't make it into an episode, tune into my weekly live stream every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I might read it live. If you dare, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, sweet dreams.